Okay, welcome back to Mia May's DIY, and today we're going to make a cushion. I have two of these chairs that I got secondhand, and of course, they last pretty long because they're metal, but not very comfortable to sit on. So we're going to make some cushions for it, and I'm going to go ahead and make the cushions that I need for my Independence Day party that I'm having this year. So it'll help add to the decoration effect because I'm having a huge party. And so my whole house is going to be like Christmas, only America. So let's get started. Okay, so I went ahead and I got these from Walmart. Not too expensive and a little bit more comfortable than to just stuff it like a pillow. So, I mean, they're premium high density and we can cut them as needed in the shape of the chair. This is my top choice fabric. This is what they're gonna look like. We're gonna have to line it because of the white. But this will be the top. This is our Americana. And so, first thing you want to do, I've cut the basic measurements in a square, but you're gonna want to see how it fits on the chair. And keep in mind that you gotta have room so that it fits in there because you have about 2 inches there. Let's get the measure. Yeah, this is roughly 2 1/8. Okay, so you need to make sure that once you put your bottom and you sew it together that you're gonna have enough of a space. It can be squished a little, so if it's not exactly perfect, it will still work, but you want to make sure you leave that gap and room for your sewing stitches. But if you see up here, it's more rounded. Now you can either still leave it and do a square and have that hang out the back, but if you want it to fit more precisely, then you're gonna want to kind of trace that and then give yourself, your gap around it. Okay, the easiest way to get these rounded corners is to find something that is very similar. And this is the closest thing I could find to use for a tracing element. So what we're going to do, I have my pattern folded in half. Let's turn it so you can see it better. And then you're just going to put that to where it matches up here and here like it did on the chair. And then you're just going to trace that. And then you'll know where to cut. Okay, so we've traced it and we've cut our rounded edges. So now you're going to need to do the same with your foam pad. And you're just going to want to trace that and trace that and cut that. And then you'll have almost a perfect fit for the top. Okay? Okay, so we've traced and we've cut. I'm going to lay it on there just to make sure that you're lined up pretty good. It might be a little bit choppy, mine is, because I cut it with scissors, but that's okay. So there you have your top and your cushion. So now we have the fun part of the liner, which is easy. You're just going to trace exactly your shape, and the easiest way is to fold your fabric in half and place it on your liner, which in this case is white, and fold your liner the same so that you have your fold line, and you're going to trace it and then you're going to cut it out. And then we will get to the fun part of the bottom piece. This is the piece that's going to actually sit on the chair, okay? You want it a little bit tough so that it can handle the shifting of people moving. Okay, I want to go back a step because I set my cushion on here, and I want to point out that it is currently overlapping. So you're going to want to trace and cut that excess off so that you have a perfect sitting cushion for the seat that you're making it for. Now you could get lucky and not have to trim anything and it fit exactly to the chair that you're wanting it to, but for the purpose of my project, I'm going to have to trim that excess off so that it sits right. So just that's one thing to keep in mind always before you begin sewing. Take your cushion and make sure it sits right, because you may have to do some trimming on both your cushion and your fabric possibly. Okay, so here's the fabric that we're gonna do for the underneath part. Decided to go with red. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna take, well, it's a little bit of a contrast. This red is brighter, but it'll be underneath, so. And I'm also trying to work with what I already have in stock. So first, you're gonna want to iron it so that it's nice and straight and doesn't shift on you. And get your good crease here at your fold. Alright, my iron's leaving stuff, so we're not going to use that spot. Not sure what's going on with my iron. Okay, so you're just going to want to iron it real quick, and then you're going to want to lay your top piece on the fold, folded with it. Okay. Okay, next you're going to want to sew your liner to your top choice fabric. So, and you're going to want to get very close. So I'm going to move my needle here up there. So you're just going to sew all the way around on this one. And we'll start at the top here because this is actually the back of my chair. So, and you want to make sure you do that back stitch. And just sew all the way around. Now, if you don't have clips, that's fine. You can just use needles. I just have a preference for clips because they're a lot easier to remove and they don't really shift the fabric when I clip them on. And this is a good chance to kind of even it off because you see these edges didn't quite match up, mainly because I traced, and this happens a lot with just kind of freehanding and tracing on your own without a pattern. That's why I give myself a little bit extra for my edging so that can get even up and more straight. And it helps get those imperfections out. All the way around. gonna connect, and out stitch and forward back, and one more. And there's that part. Okay, so we have our bottom piece, we have our top piece and liner sewn together. One thing we want to do is put ties so that when the chair is got the cushion on it, we can tie it so that it doesn't slide when people get up and stuff. So all you're gonna do is decide how long you think you want them, and I'm gonna go a little bit shorter on mine, and you're gonna then cut that piece and then make a second piece for over here. Okay, so I've cut my ties and I've pinned them in place, and they're more to the side because the way our chair is, it's gonna be over here where we can actually tie them. So next, what you're gonna want to do is you need to measure this all the way around. You start here, and you're just gonna keep going around. Okay, and you see here it doesn't quite reach. So in order to measure that, you're going to use your ruler. So it's about 64.5 inches. So we know that because next we're going to cut our piece for around here. And we're going to cut it to be about 2.5 inches so that we have room to sew it on each side, top and bottom, of the cushion. And then that'll give it that nice fold and edging that cushions have. So we have our fabric laid out here so we can do our edging, and we've got our tape measure laid out all the way down. We've added our 4 inches, and we're going to make a mark, and then what we're doing is we're going down measuring from the straight edge 2.5 inches, and we're making our marks all the way down, and that's going to be our cut line. Okay, so we've got our edging pinned all the way around, and I pinned it like this so that I don't have to stop and pull pins out. I can just roll right over them with my stitching. And your corners, you're going to want to corner it and then make a triangle. And so when you run right over that, you're going to go just like a right angle on that. And then up here where it meets, you're going to first sew this. You're going to connect these two and go across before you start going around laying your stitching down. And we have it like this because when we flip it this over after it's sewn on, then it'll have that nice crease where it meets without seeing the stitching. Okay, so now we've sewed our pieces together, and we've done our stitching here. I did a zigzag to make sure that it wouldn't fray. Kind of like when you're sewing a dress or clothing, you always want to make sure to do zigzag to keep the fabric from fraying and tearing open. And since we're going to be stuffing this with something, you know, it's going to be pretty tight, we want to make sure nothing frays and tears. But so our next step, we are going to sew the bottom on, and you're going to want to, since this is the rounded is our back, you're going to want to leave that part open for stuffing the cushion in. So we're going to start our pinning about here on each side. You're going to pin it into place just like you did the top part, only we're going to flip it inside out like we did before, so that our stitching is hidden. And see, here's our ties. We tucked them through so that they'd be on the outside. I forgot to mention that in the last step, but you want to make sure to tuck that through so that it's not stuck on the inside where it does you no good. But we're going to turn this inside out. And we're just going to pin that bottom piece on. And then we'll stuff it and we'll show you how to close it up after that. Okay, so here it is all pinned up. I just wanted to show you this real quick. Left the top open so that we can pull it right side out, and then also so we can stuff our cushion in here, which is not going to be easy. It's not like stuffing a pillow because we're using this stiff foam here, but I wanted to show you how I did this, how I rotated, which way they're pinned. That helps keep it from shifting. And so now we're just going to, we pinned our corners because we're going to go ahead and sew the corners. It's going to make it a little bit more difficult putting the foam pad in, but it's going to be a lot easier for the next step where we close this up after the foam pad's in. So it's kind of worth it in the end. But so there you go. There's what it looks like all pinned up. And now we're just going to sew it together. Okay, so here we are. I've got it stuffed inside. And let me tell you, the foam likes to stick to everything and it is not going to want to go easily. It's going to take a lot of manipulation and movement on your part. But so this is the back, that's the front. We have our ties so we can tie it to the chair. Now we need to sew this, and this is the tricky part. You can do a lot of different things here. You could do Velcro so that you can pull it off and wash it when you need to. You could get some yarn or string, thicker string, you know, not just your thread, but like actual like string like you would use for like beading necklaces or something to that effect. And you could, you know, do a loop design and make a pretty bow on the back. You could do it the traditional way of sewing, hand sewing, where you're going to have to put the needle through there and loop it out and basically forcing it to fold like the rest of the creases, like this. For me, I think I'm just going to loop it with some yarn, and because it's just the easiest thing to do, and then I'll be done. So let me get that started, and I'll show you about halfway through what it looks like, and then I'll show you the final product on the chair. Okay, so here we started with the yarn. I did a basic loop to start with, and then I'm just doing my stitching across. I used yarn darners because they have the larger opening to put yarn through, but try to go with as small of a needle as you can, because the bigger the needle, the less sharp it is. So it's really tough to try to get the needle through the fabric, but even more to pull the eyelet of the needle through. So, I mean, it's a tough process, and my hands aren't what they used to be, so it takes me a little bit longer, and I'm not as neat as I should be, especially with putting this on YouTube. But it's a painful experience for me. But yeah, you just loop it through, or you can, you know, choose another method of closing it up, but this is what I've chose. And then I'm going to cut this, and I'm going to do a figure 8 knot, which is common in fishing. That's where I learned it. And that'll knot up that end. Okay, so there you have it, folks. There's your before and there's your after. It's a long and complicated project, but with a little patience, anybody can do it. And now I have one chair ready for 4th of July. Join us next time on Mia May's DIY.